afternoon all. I am Niranjan, like you told. I represent ETAS India. Before I start my presentation, let me add a disclaimer. Whatever I would share here is our experiences. Probably that's not the only way of doing things. There are also multiple other ways, even which we would also do. But ideally, this is from our experience from past 1 year of getting into software-defined vehicles. I would not take you all through the definitions of software-defined vehicles or the concepts of it, because I think it's been 1.5 years since software-defined vehicle is already a buzzword and we all know what it means. Yeah. We get started with what are the enablers of software-defined vehicle. Yeah. For an OEM to kind of adapt software-defined vehicle into their new vehicle platforms for enhancing the user expectations. Yeah. So what is that motivates an OEM to do that is something that I have listed down. It necessarily need not be only these, it can be more. To get started, it enables OEMs to drive their software function development. Yeah? Because OEMs are pretty close to the users, they know the user problems, so they are best fitted to drive their software functions that would go onto the vehicle, and SDV would enable that. SDV would enable suppliers and the OEMs to increase the software development speed by 10x. Yeah? Of course, not by compromising the quality, but with a lot of new technologies, new automations, new tooling, and a lot of integration would enable this. As we all know that the moment you tell software-defined vehicle, it already means it's hardware, software agnostic, but in this case, it's also vehicle agnostic. Unlike in past where you have a different software teams, software stands set up for different vehicle variants, software-defined vehicle will come up with new design patterns where you can manage variability of the vehicles through remote configurations. Yeah? So it's at the runtime, not during the development time. And last but not the least is vehicle lifespan, where unlike today, where the vehicles don't get updated that frequently, now with SDV coming in and with the continuous innovations that would happen, and these innovations getting updated onto the vehicle on the field, the vehicles are always kept up to date. Yeah? So these are the levers that will enable OEMs to adapt software-defined vehicle, and over the next 10 years, the complete vehicle would get transformed to software-defined. Now, after the enablers, let's talk about the organizational, cultural transformation that it takes. Yeah. So here the organizational transformation can happen in multiple ways, right from the inception of the idea of getting onto a software-defined platform, to the sourcing, to the development, design, testing on the vehicle, as well as the maintenance. All of these would get transformed. So I would take an example of the sourcing itself. So if you take RFQs, the RFQs that were rolled earlier the RFQs would get rolled out for domains for functions, where a set of partnered suppliers or one supplier would give an offering, and OEM would take this as a black box and integrate into the vehicle. Whereas with the new SDV coming in, where you have a hardware BOM and the software BOM separate, where you have RFQs rolled out for high performance computers, ECUs, sensors, actuators separately. Beyond that, you would also have the operating systems. You will have a separate RFQs that you can still roll out from OEM side. Then based on different safety levels, domains, you would have different RFQs for the middleware stacks, and finally the applications itself would be developed by OEM or by their partners. Yeah, so there's a big difference between how the RFQs were rolled out pre-SDV and post-SDV. So now this gives the ecosystem view of what the SDV would look like, say from 30,000 feet high. So you would have a software factory and you would have the software itself. So you have a factory which will enable, which is a mix of the PMT, that's the tools, the workflows, the collaboration, and all of it, all automated, integrated into a DevOps pipeline, which is completely orchestrated by OEM, and which even enables the suppliers who are supplying middleware, services, security, integration, all of it in such a DevOps pipeline, and they deliver the software over the air onto the vehicle. Again, the layers of the software on the vehicle is broadly split, like shown there, where you have hardware agnostic softwares. Majorly, OEM will focus more on changing the applications as well as the layer at the bottom, which will abstract the vehicle as well as come up with more cross-domain functions. Yeah. So these cross-domain functions and the applications are the key elements that the OEM will continue to develop throughout the life cycle of the vehicle. And the outcome of this is, following such a software factory-based approaches, the software development cycles, which takes about months and years today, will eventually get reduced to weeks and hours in future. Yeah, it could so happen there's a change request at an OEM. It's rolled out to the OEM teams as well as the supplier teams. At the end of the day, within 24 hours or probably even less than that, a feature could get automatically developed, generated, validated, and deployed onto the field. It can become a reality in future. But there will be a transition from, say, from years to months to weeks and finally to hours. So now one level deeper, if you see the software inside the vehicle, yeah. So we talk about a lot of ECUs, a lot of HPCs. Finally, when you come to the software stacks within, it will end up in one of these combinations or more than one of these combinations. So you would have a hard real-time aligned ASIL-D feature supporting stack. You would have safety relevant but on the processor aligned stack. You would have a QM stack where the development is a lot more easy, where OEMs can find more, where software engineers who can develop, which is highly vehicle as well as hardware agnostic, then the infotainment stack. Now all of these stacks shall coexist, will coexist. The stacks are chosen, the combination of the stacks are chosen based on the necessity of the use case. Even the feature changes graph that you see at the bottom, it shows on how the changes would flow in post SOP. Yeah. So in future, you get more features that you would develop, which is relevant to user experience, user expectations, personalization, that would go into infotainment and onto the QM domain. But when it comes to the ASIL-D domain, you will have very little minimum functions or minimum changes that you put in there. Yeah. Now this will show the collaboration model between OEM and the suppliers. To start off with, it will start with the case one, where you would have a co-integration approach, where the suppliers would deliver the binaries to OEMs, and OEMs would do the integration, would do the continuous testing, which would show the transparency of the quality of the softwares which are delivered, and then rolled onto the field. Use case 2 is where suppliers would already have the software pipelines, which would be shared with OEMs to integrate with an OEM pipeline, and OEM would do a co-integration and co-development. Yeah, so you'll have a common engineering approach where the softwares are continuously developed with a common tool chain and then they are delivered. Use case 3 is highly optimistic at this point of time, but at some day it would be a reality, where you would have a common pipeline, common DevOps pipelines, where the suppliers and the OEMs would exchange the sources and commit to the common software. Yeah. With this, the speed at which the development goes high, then everything would become one single organization in terms of distributed virtual one single organization, where you would have software development happening at a greater speed. You have highly process definition happening at the source level, and you will also have a DevOps system which will eventually deliver the software onto the vehicle. So this is the cultural shift in terms of collaboration that will happen. It will start with case 1 and eventually end up with case 3, and this is bound to happen in future. So this as whole as a summary, whatever I spoke on board, off board, it will end up here, where you would have sensor, actuators, the high performance computers, the controllers, the middleware stacks, the functions, and the cloud infrastructure and the functions on the cloud. All these could come from different suppliers. Yeah. So unlike today, where you have a bigger chunk with one supplier, the OEMs will have high flexibility in sourcing. Suppliers have a high challenge in making sure that across supplier softwares are interoperable. And finally, this is the ecosystem that it looks like. Now with ETAs, we have products, services to enable all of this at OEMs. Yeah. And so with ETAs, with the new solution field coming in, there's a new solution field called end-to-end, ETAs end-to-end solution field, specially formed to address the SDV problems, where this solution field will basically pick whatever is already there state of the art today at ETAs, in some cases also at competitors, where we do a seamless integration and enable a complete solution which will enable SDV at the OEM space. So here we offer consultancy, we have our own products that we offer, we offer integration services where you have applications running in QM or in SLB would interact with the infotainment and other way around, and we also would offer an operation and maintenance and the workflows for that. Thank you.